Face. Really?
Nah, let's start with a musical intro.
I must admit, when you've been down to tie the laces of my shoes, tangled up in me. Okay, it's enough of that.
Ugh, that makes me want summer.
It's here.
I know, but is it?
Yes.
I want to travel.
That's not wanting summer, that's wanting travel.
I associate the two together.
Huh.
Do you think travel is going to be possible?
Yeah, I wouldn't advise it. In terms of regulations and stuff,
Right?
it seems like stuff is going to go back to normal.
Wait. Way
sooner than
Wait.
soon.
Is it?
I think so. But I consider that to be very dangerous still. So even if stuff opens up, I'm probably not. I'm going to wait at least a couple of weeks after things open up.
Yeah.
To be ready.
Well, I mean, also, what is it that you really have to? Is it like imperative that you go hang out in a coffee shop or something?
No, it's imperative that I see my nephew.
Oh,
but I don't want to quarantine. But I don't want to quarantine when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning away from them.
Yeah. I think it's probably good you didn't drive across country. Remember when you were thinking about that? I mean, who knows?
I still was like, maybe I'll do it after the event.
But still do it, yeah. My dad was like, you should do it.
Why do you say it's good you didn't do it?
I was imagining like staying in some hotel. No, you would have just slept in the car. It's just even like stopping for gas. I don't know.
Stopping for gas would just be like your anal retentive with gloves and.
Yeah. You're right. You probably would have been
fine. With gloves and like going to the bathroom and gas are the only. That's not like more. Going to the bathroom is not more risky than.
Going to the bathroom is like risky in non-quarantine times.
It doesn't put you more at risk for coronavirus.
No, it puts you at risk for unpleasantness.
That for sure. I got dumplings today because I don't feel very good.
Why not?
My internal occurrences.
What's going on? I didn't even think of that.
Think of what?
I saw the dumplings and I didn't think about if they're not on your meal plan.
No.
Yeah. Did they help?
Yeah, I come today.
Okay.
So I got a surge. And I don't have my heating pad. It's over there. Maybe I'll go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to get it now. It's okay.
I have to get it now.
Okay. All right. I don't want you to be hurting. I'm just gonna talk to myself. Is there like a quarantine 15 that is going around? Like, have people put on weight during this time and are feeling guilty about it? Or maybe not. Maybe just loving their love handles. I think I missed out on like a really big... I missed out on gaining weight over quarantine.
What?
Didn't do that. I was supposed to be doing that.
First of all, it's not over. Second of all, you haven't tried.
Haven't tried?
Yeah.
No, I didn't try. But I guess I was just reading about that online today, or it kept popping up. It was like quarantine 15. And
I don't know who these people are.
And I was like, what are you guys talking about? I thought we all got really fit during this time.
It's one or the other.
I guess so.
But that was maybe the most obnoxious thing you've ever said.
What?
I thought we all just got really fit.
I thought we did. It seemed like there was
you're
a
talking
lot.
about you.
No, yeah, you're. Oh, this is like why the
It's like
internet.
I thought we were all really.
I thought we were all really fat, right? Like me, everything's about me.
I know what you meant. Yeah, there's stuff on the internet. It
Yeah.
depends on who you're talking about, because again, like,
Did Anna Kendrick get really fit?
listen,
We all really need to know how Anna Kendrick dealt through these times.
I mean, that even would be more interesting than what the thing actually was.
Did you actually read it?
Of course, I didn't.
Okay.
I should have.
I wasn't sure where that sentence was ending.
Neither was I. So I was flipping out yesterday over a story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you already know this.
Yeah.
But called Anna Kendrick Does Wellness Her Own Way.
Oh, gotta do it your own way.
The Pitch Perfect star has tried meditating, eating vegan, and adhering to precise workouts. But
Wow.
nothing quite stuck.
So hard.
So she's landed on a more flexible routine. Quote, I'm trying to have a scent, and then that's really.
Just trying to have a what?
I could not
sensible-
care less.
I don't know.
I could not care less.
It's so hard for her. No, she tried veganism for like a day.
It didn't help.
It didn't help.
You know what? Just didn't stick.
It's supposed to make me feel better.
My veganism never stuck.
Yeah, there's
I-
something wrong with the adhesive tape of my veganism, the kind that
Yeah.
I got.
I tried veganism, and then like next thing I knew, I was eating a burger.
It's strange how that happens.
It just didn't stick. Is what I took from that. I guess it's not sticking.
Meditation too, you know? Like, it just didn't work for me.
Has meditation ever stuck to any human ever?
I don't know what that means, stuck. It
Yeah.
just means you kept doing it. But it's not because of the meditation that you kept doing it, it's because you kept doing it.
Right. I also think that meditation is maybe the least sticky of all
Yeah.
possible fucking things. Yeah, kind of. If you stipulate that things are sticky, which I agree with you, they're not.
Okay, but this is like meditation.
That is like that was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Meditation, you can do 5 minutes a day. You do 5 minutes a day. And it might be hell during those 5 minutes. But it's 5 minutes.
Instead. That's one of the things about that sentence. It's taking no responsibility. It's making it seem like it's veganism, precise workout, and meditation's fault.
Yeah.
That she didn't feel better.
It is.
I'm pretty sure. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if veganism was so great, why
Why am I not
work?
doing it still?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It was
tantamount to
supposed
saying
to make the quarantine a wonderful experience.
it's tantamount to saying, if meditation was so good, why am I not meditating right now?
Yeah. Like if meditation was so good, why aren't we all just meditating?
Yeah, that means
Always.
it's not good. Also, Anna Kendrick doing wellness her way. Is there any other way that Anna Kendrick could do wellness?
Yeah, she could do it like some other person's way. And then be like, but this just doesn't fit right for me.
But just the fact that you're doing it, Anna Kendrick, makes it you doing it.
I think it was, and you know what, it was probably meant to be like Hey, just be compassionate to yourself during these times and don't have expectations because the world is crazy right now. But it does come across as very,
You seem to think this was more topical than I thought it was.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's Shape magazine. And I don't know if I've ever picked up an issue of Shape magazine, but
I have
assume.
so many times.
Oh, yeah?
In part because when I was a subscriber of this of Fabletics,
Yeah.
they used to sneak in free 1-year subscriptions.
Ooh.
You don't you remember me getting Shape magazine?
Like, but you got it for free, or they would just be like,
No,
you
it was
signed up.
free,
Mhm.
but they signed me up. Like I got them for a
Weird.
year,
I
more than a year.
I don't like magazines around.
I
Unless they're like the
kind of bothered
Atlantic
by it.
or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like they're very addictive. Not addictive, but like they're like clickbait for your brain.
Yeah, it's like junk food.
Yeah, like standing in the grocery line, I can't not look. I'm like, what? I literally, that's the only time that's where I get all my information. And I almost always, if I'm just standing there, end up looking at either the chocolate or the magazines.
It's always about the Royals.
So much about the Royals.
I don't think I see any whisper of them anywhere else.
Yeah, grocery store.
Except the grocery store. Because that's really when you're like, oh yeah, what is Kate up to these days?
Right.
Yeah. I wish they displayed like think pieces right at the checkout.
Sometimes they do. I think it might be, I think they do one of those things that are like, it's not the content that's clickbait. I think it's a little clickbaity. But you know how like people are attracted to color and stuff?
Mm.
I think like it's that. They're very brightly colored.
They are. You're right.
So there's something about it that like the same way that if a TV is on, it doesn't matter if like you're not a fan of soccer, like your eyes will go there.
Yeah, I hate bars that have TVs for that exact reason. Can't help but gaze at it.
Yeah.
I like, and it's a glazed gaze. I'm not really watching it.
It's a light show.
Totally. Yeah.
That's what the like shitty magazines are like for me.
Yeah.
Also, I'm like, all these different colors, and
as a kid,
I'm looking again.
Oh, I used to beg my parents to get them. Like People magazine. I really, really wanted. I really, really, really. That's what I wanted. I didn't want like the cereal or the da-da-da. I wanted People magazine. And my parents wouldn't, they like had such a hard time buying it for us because, yeah, they knew it was garbage.
I definitely like got into I definitely had magazines as a kid as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember where they came from because I can't remember any interface between me and my parents about it.
Hmm.
Where did they come from?
The magazine fair. Did you have an allowance? Did you just go buy them?
I didn't have an allowance.
Hmm.
And I mean, then I would remember buying them. Like I feel like they just materialized.
Hmm.
Huh.
I'm assuming they bought them for you then. For your sister?
I need to look in on this. And he tells my parents who never remember anything about something I can't remember. I haven't done my workout yet.
Are you gonna?
I can't not eat my meal plan and also not do the exercise.
I was wondering if today was finally your break day. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I haven't taken a break.
Mm-hmm. Friday's a good break day.
Sunday is the next supposed to be break. So yeah, that's true. I have been doing like pretty hard workouts every day and then obviously dance on top of that.
Yeah.
I had an ecstatic religious experience in dance today.
Okay.
It was just a little bit. to the point where like I was like my nephew. The moments like in between songs where he's like just like a couple of breaths and just like slow it down for a second. I was like jumping in front of the computer like a crazy person. It felt like I was on something.
Cool.
Yeah. And then right after that, I got on the phone with Ishan
Yeah.
and I proceeded to like tell my dad to play a bunch of Queen songs. And I kept going.
That's why you were in a very good mood this morning.
When?
I don't know. When I came into the kitchen and you almost stopped me.
Oh my God. Because I was so hopped up too, I think.
Okay.
Like I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
You thought I was in a good mood when I almost stabbed you?
Yeah. Because your reaction could have been like, don't sneak up on me. But instead it was just like funny. And then you went back to singing. And making your acai bowl.
I would not.
Ooh.
In any mood, I would not have.
So a package.
In any mood, I would not have been like, don't sneak up on me.
Don't ever do that.
Because you didn't. You just like walked up and were like, hey. And I was like,
I could have stuck. You don't know
but
that.
then it didn't feel like that was the intention.
Sometimes I feel like my natural way is sneaky. So, whatever. But anyway, you seemed in a good mood because you were like singing your heart out.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Right. That was right after the second dance episode.
Oh, and then
I was making an acai bowl. I was like,
that picture of your acai bowl is so beautiful.
Is it?
Yes. The blueberries?
Is it because I picked a good filter?
I don't know. I was impressed.
I did notice that you said something, which is a first. I don't get attention. I don't get Instagram attention from someone over here.
Okay.
Yeah, like that is not.
She picked the blueberries in the garden. In the driveway. Yep, they're pretty attractive. They're pretty sexy.
You know what happened this morning?
What?
The new gardeners beheaded my golden heart tree, the one that I planted at the very top of the hill.
Yeah.
They beheaded it. So I actually had a really bad start to the morning.
Oh shit, okay.
I got so mad. I have a thing with gardeners.
Yeah.
Like at this point, like it's gotta be me. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But something about me and gardeners does not work out. I hate them all. He was like, so there were two guys. And given there was a major language barrier, but the whole time he was just like, no, this is a weed. And I was like, I'm telling you it's not a weed.
Right.
He was like, no, it's a weed. I got like, I was like heated about it.
Yeah.
Because I planted it in 2018.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Okay. And it was like this 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a stick.
So he thought it was a weed.
I don't know. He just cut it. I don't know.
First of all, like it's not the first time in the garden. So it's been there a while.
No, they was their first time here.
Oh, okay. Why would you behead a weed anyway?
That's a great question.
Like that's not going to do anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Also, if what you do is gardening and weeds, don't you think that you would have like major familiarity with all the Southern California weeds? It's the same fucking climate. Every garden is the fucking same.
Yeah.
The weeds are the same everywhere. That was clearly not a weed. Like if it has bark,
Right.
like if it's
tree.
brown, if it's got a brown like main thing,
That's not a weed.
that's not a weed. And I got very peeved by the back and forth about whether or not it was.
Mhm.
He was like, "No, we're clearing the ficus," and I was like, "I know, but I'm not talking about the ficus." Anyway, so I actually haven't gone out back to look at what they did because I can't know. I don't know.
Ugh.
It's already so expensive because 2 months ago I fired the previous gardener after having a discussion with Thomas, who did the landscaping, who said they'd started a garden maintenance service. So I talked to him, got a price from him, was like, "Yeah, please, can you guys come? Because I've had 7 different gardeners, and for whatever reason, it just keeps not working out. But since you guys planted this garden, I've like obviously have some basic trust with you. It was a good price.
Mhm.
We agreed to it, and then it turned into a scheduling nightmare, and then the guy quit. All of which took 2 months to happen. To the point where I was just texting him, being like, "Hey, can you please come?" Like, he wouldn't write me back for the long time. This is really weird. And then they came and gave me a quote to clear up the whole place. Guess how much it was?
How much?
800 something. And I was like, "Yeah, no. No." But I still want to do the gardening service, and whatever you get done in the normal gardening service amount of time is what you get done. Like, I'm not going to expect to clean up from it.
Mhm.
And then they didn't show, so I ended up having to do a cleanup of 2 months of cleanup only because of the delay. Otherwise, I would have had that previous guy coming every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So the 800 or whatever this cleanup amount was only necessary because of a gardener. Like if they had just communicated and been clear and on top of it, that cost would not have existed.
All right.
So this is now a company that my landscaper referred me to. But they at least seem a little bit more responsive. Like I got an invoice and I wrote back to them like, "Hi, I talked to somebody in the office about what happened today, and I expect it to be reflected in this. So kindly do that." And they were like, "Yeah." Okay. Which he wants me to send a picture, which I fucking shit.
What do you think your thing is about gardeners?
Karma? I don't know. Not like karma in the traditional, not in the like colloquial sense.
Yeah.
Like clearly there's bad blood between me and the profession of gardening. I don't know how to explain it. I don't have this experience with any other like, recurring service or ongoing relationships with any.
Yeah.
I have a problem with every gardener.
For a while, I had that with hairdressers.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it just like subpar, or were you like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
No, it was pretty consistently. I would just get bad haircuts, and kept going like to different places. and every place kind of made it worse. And then the more that ends up happening, the less you trust people. So then the more you try to control it, but that that almost makes it worse. Yeah, I went through like a pretty rough hairdressing phase. And it kind of made like going to a hairdresser pretty traumatic. It was like, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, what's gonna happen when I sit in that chair?
It's so weird. It's very weird. How do you mess up like long hair?
Well, it kept getting shorter.
I mean, that generally happens when you get it cut.
Yeah, it kept getting shorter because like I kept not liking the haircut, and then like kept trying to fix it, and then I don't know. But I think the controllingness was part of it. I think like the lack of trust was part of it.
Mm.
Yeah, because it also like extended into, instead of just like going to a friend's hairdresser that I was like, oh, works for you, I'm sure it'll work for me. I kept feeling like I had to like go out on my own and really find someone and pay lots of money.
Don't you do that
to
about
get
everything?
Do I do that about everything?
Go out on your own?
Go out on my own. Yeah, and it probably comes down to trust too. Yeah. Because if I got a bad haircut from like a friend's recommendation, I don't know, that would be bad.
Because you blame them.
This is like years and years ago now. Honestly, I would have probably made it about me. Would have been like, there's something wrong with me and my hair.
Wait, and that's the reason you have to go out on your own and find someone?
Maybe, yeah. So I have special needs.
You need your grape juice.
Not in a good way, in a like, there's something cool. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I think that stuff goes away.
What goes away?
Like, bad karma.
I have fantastic karma with literally everything else.
Mm-hmm.
As in, I have the greatest everything. My therapist is the greatest. My trainer is the greatest.
Mm.
My acupuncturist is the greatest. Like, I have lucked out in a way that my real estate person is the greatest.
Mm.
Before she moved to Seattle, my eyebrow person was the greatest.
Mm. What makes them
I had the
so
greatest
great?
everything.
Like, is it just you happen to find them?
I don't know.
Is it like somehow you interacting with them, like you believing they're the greatest makes them the greatest?
No, because I have had other experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something about, I have had other experiences. Like, I didn't have a consistent hairstylist person for ever until about 5-ish years ago. And then I went to the same lady for like 3-some years. And then now I've been going to Lauren for like 2 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not like a lifetime thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I have great, like, you came off of Craigslist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not really that normal. But I feel like I end up with the greatest everything in terms of like humans.
Yeah.
And the
You do
conspicuous,
attract really good humans.
the conspicuous sore thumb in all of this is the gardeners. It's just like time after time, like, I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Well, so now you have a new gardener. Gardeners. Okay. Well,
And I'm trying not to freak out about the thing because it's gotten to the point where since something goes wrong every single time, I more or less expect it. This is why I have a curry patta plant inside in a pot by the window because I'm more or less planning on someone murdering the one outside. And then I got, because the moringa has been doing badly for like at least a year.
Yeah.
I now have a baby moringa inside. So I have understudies.
Ooh.
But I don't have an understudy for the goat mohair.
I mean, this is a bit too late now, but maybe I don't know what you tell them beforehand about like what needs to be done, but maybe like in the future, just so you know, there's these plants and they need like special care, and your people might not be familiar with them because they're not native to California. Something like that.
Yeah, that was my plan today.
Right.
But they were more punctual than I anticipated.
Oh, okay.
And I figured, like, I'll just call the office. So at 8 o'clock when they were supposed to arrive,
yeah,
I called the office, like lying in bed. And I was like, hey, I just want to check if those people are on their way. And I just wanted you to see if you can let them know, like, to check in with me. There's a couple of things that I want to, point out. Go or whatever.
Right.
She was like, oh, they're already there. And I was like, they are? And I got out of bed and I opened the back door and I was like, oh shit, because I saw one guy like way up in the back
my
of the
God.
hill. And
Okay.
I was like,
was it too late?
Yeah.
It had already happened?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's very upsetting.
Isn't it? But what's it called? Totally fixed my mood. Dance.
Yeah, what's his name again?
Corey.
Corey.
My mom was like, all he does is wriggle. What are you guys sweating from? I was like,
all he does is wriggle. She should do it with you one day.
I know. I was like, go ahead and do it. And she was like, and I was like, okay, do that for 45 minutes later.
Yeah.
He goes for a run every morning before class.
You're so bossy with your mom on the phone, by the way, when you're training her. I could never speak to my mother that way.
No one could speak to your mother that way.
That's true.
I was frustrated today.
Yeah.
You mean in general all the time?
I don't normally like hear you. Today it sounded very like, I think you were instructing her to like say the exercise.
Because I've been asking her to say it for easily 2.5 weeks now.
Right.
She's like, press the band, squeeze my butt, push the band, squeeze firm. And it's like, what are you doing? But she's ADD, so I literally was like, so see how you're looking out the window right now? Because she was like exactly like I just did in my impression of her, is looking out the window. And I was like, you need to be looking at the thing that you're talking about.
Right.
So if I'm talking about your heels, like your mind needs to be in your heels.
Yeah.
Not like, so it's that distracted thing that drives me a bit up the wall.
Mm-hmm.
She did a good job, though, ultimately.
Did she?
Yeah. It's so hard to train them for the reason that I brought up once, which is that like all sensation is referred to and treated as pain.
Yeah.
And her face is like, And I'm like, what is that? Where are you feeling this?
Right.
Because it's nerve-wracking, because like she could be injured. I don't know. So like it really could be bad. It could be not good.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe she's
Or-
hoping you'll have that reaction, so she can stop.
Plus she needs so much affirmation.
Yeah.
She's like, Nini, isn't it so much better? Isn't it so much better? And I was like, Ma, I told you from day one, the only person who's going to know if it's better is you.
Right.
Because if it hurts less, getting up and down in your day.
Yeah, like you're not inside her body.
Yeah, I don't know if it's better.
Yeah.
And again, she was like, isn't this better? And I was like, is it?
You're supposed to be like, yes. Wait, what is it?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
That's great. At least, I would love my dad to work out.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that a few moments ago, and I do want to say that it's a huge deal to me that she's doing it.
Yeah.
That she trusts me enough to do it, that she trusts herself enough to do it, that she is putting in it is an enormous hurdle. And I do like a lot of times when she's like, isn't it better? I'm like, yeah. Even though I'm not actually that sure some of the times.
Mm-hmm.
But I just assume she's also so like in her psychic world.
Yeah.
Rather than her like. So I don't trust her to tell me what's going on. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, it's like quite a fragile.
Is her form getting better?
Yes, and that's another reason that I like freak out a bit over form, is because she has a torn rotator cuff. She has a patella that's like chipped. Like there's all manner of shit going on. And the last thing in the whole world that I want to happen is for any of this to make things worse, because then she'll like never do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The last thing I want is for exercise or strength, like anything that is actually good, to somehow accidentally cause problem.
Yeah.
Also, like my dad's going to be 70 soon. I don't have a good sense, and this is kind of something I was talking about in teacher training as well. Like, I don't have a great sense of other people's bodies that aren't mine. Like a diverse sense.
Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, you don't have a good sense of
what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
What is reasonable to expect. What is pushing them while also.
Yeah. Is that partly because, like, I think we've talked about, obviously we talked about this, but I think specifically, like, you're like naturally quite flexible, and you naturally can like go quite hard. So you don't really like have anything to relate to with like more creaky bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Injuries, age. I think you develop, if you are a teacher, you develop an awareness for problems that you don't have.
Yeah. But
starting out, I think it is a bit challenging to like vividly imagine a body that's having an issue that you have no physical familiarity with.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people's fugly down dogs. You know how they're all kinds of crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what's happening there. I kind of do now.
Okay.
Because of training and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it would still be some like trouble. Like I would be like, have you tried plugging it in? Disconnect the power for a few minutes. Have the light stopped blinking.
I think that can be hard. or it's at least definitely something that you have to develop, is an understanding of other people's bodies, other people's pain. Like,
But that again, it means like they need to know. And a lot of people, and we talk about this in training as well, don't really know the difference between pain and pain.
yeah. Yeah, there was even that day when I was like, oh, my back hurts. And you were like, is it pain or is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess also takes experience in your own body. Like, there's no way I would confuse, personally, at this point, soreness or use with injury. No way. But I think that has come from like experimentation over time and observation over time. So I'm sure that as my mom does this more and more, she will be able to discern easier. But like while she can't discern and I'm physically not there, I really can't feel like I'm in control of the potential mishaps that may occur.
Yeah. The most you can do is just like really know what could exacerbate joints or whatever it is and make sure, like, just really pay attention to them. Yeah.
But also she like is really resistant to a couple of things. Like I can't tell you how many times I've told her to like hit the area I'm talking about. I don't know if she thinks that I'm messing with her and trying to make her look like an idiot. I don't know what it is, but she refused pretty consistently to do it.
Why? Why?
I'm not clear.
Interesting.
I'm not clear. And so today, finally, she went like this. And she was like, it's not tight. And I was like, yeah, I know. So the reason we're hitting it is that then the place that you are hitting, try to find where you are hitting yourself and try to make any movement happen in it. But like that's where that's like a I mean, I guess this is what Claire does all the time. That's not an easy thing to do, to wake up muscles that are used to being asleep. And Claire has so much education and experience around it. I don't know where I was going with this. So the few things that I do know, like, no, I'm serious, hit your butt right now. I think it's because several of the times I was telling her to do it, I was wanting her to go like this, and I think she was like, that's just stupid. I'm really glad she's doing it.
Yeah. I bet you're learning a lot too.
Probably won't.
I even just think, even if you don't want to be like a teacher, getting more in tune with other people's bodies probably makes you more aware, more compassionate.
Also, it's just kind of amazing to me that and it's not, there's no snake oil about it, like exercise helps, but she's like, I couldn't do this a couple of days ago. Oh. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
I mean, probably it's just the fact that she's doing something rather than nothing. But I'm pretty glad that nothing has gotten hugely exacerbated yet. I don't know. I feel like generally, I think it's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Also, like, they're still doing it. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah, that's good.
It's been like a month and a half, actually.
How often do you guys do it?
We shoot for every day. 4 times a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Like there's a time set out for it. the schedule, the monster schedule. And Ishan then comes in the middle and he's like, yuck, Bale, yuck, I'm doing it. And it's like just like pulling on a band somewhere.
Actually, that is great. He has an interest in exercise now.
Yeah. My dad was like, what this, cockawoo? And my dad was like, this is a torture device. And I was like, don't tell him that.
Yeah.
And Aditi was like, no, exercise is delightful. And I was like, yes, it's delightful.
Delightful. Yeah, it is. It is, actually. It feels so good.
Yeah.
People forget that. I wish my dad would get that.
Yeah, he's probably completely forgotten.
You know, he's talked about being a kid. I don't know quite how much to believe. He talks about being a kid and being kind of like overweight and out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And that he used to get teased. But he's like, I didn't really care. Because I knew I was intelligent and that's what I prized. So he's like, I didn't care if I was out of shape. I knew something they didn't. But there's a part of me that's like super. I'm like, no way. There's no way your like 13-year-old self was like, whatever. I'm smart.
I'm sure he was, but there's no way that that's the whole authentic emotional reality.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or if it miraculously was, I think he would have some sense of wonder about it.
Like
I think he would be like, I don't know why or how, but it didn't seem to be that, it didn't throw me off that much.
He just believes in himself. Like he doesn't doubt himself ever. And I don't.
Neither does my mother either.
Right. Yeah. There's something kind of similar actually. Like there's an airiness to him. And with him, maybe I'm just projecting, but I'm always like, no, come on. Like there's like something, you're not like connected to your emotions on a very deep level. That's what's giving you that sense of like, oh, fine.
Yeah.
And I also think like he can't really relate to other people's doubt. Like doesn't even recognize it when it's there. To the point where I've shared with him like about my own personal struggles and like how whatever I was feeling at the time, and he'll be like, really? Really? I didn't know that. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Interesting. There is something very similar with my mother.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. So sometimes I feel like I want to like
pull the thread,
tether him, and I don't know whether that would be a disservice to him or not. Like I don't know if he's onto something that I can't see, like he's Prince Andrew or something. And maybe I'm just like really interested in like darker, messier feelings. And maybe my own suffering to a certain extent. Or, yeah, whether he's like cut himself off from something vital.
I really relate to that, like, whole experience of being like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
My instinct is to be like, it's neither one of the extreme. It's neither like super maladaptive nor like more evolved. although in general, like, I think the thing that would give me pause about your dad is the body.
The body
Is his physical, like, limitations, perceived limitations, ideas about like what, yeah, his issues with pain, or like not his issues with pain, but his ongoing like pain thing.
Yeah.
Those are the things that would lead me to think that there is something going on, rather than that there is.
Like that the pain is persistent because it's like trying to get him to pay attention to something. His body's like, hello. He pays like so he spends a lot of his time like warming up his body. Warming it up. Like grooming that. He like tends to his body a lot.
Grooming?
And grooming, I use that loosely in the terms of like he'll do energization exercises, and then he has like a hot pack, and then he does stretches, and then he goes for walks, and then he goes for a swim, and then he has a snack, and then he takes a nap, and then he goes for another walk, or like whatever. He has like his whole thing. But it's all very light.
So to apply yogic philosophy,
yeah,
which I basically spent the entire day talking my parents' ears off about. It sounds rigid.
Yeah.
So in response to that, it would be important to bring in more flexibility on every level. So like in the body as well as in the mind, as well as in the,
yeah,
like more allowing, more feminine, basically.
Yeah. When he came out here, he was actually like, he's like, I do get really stuck into my routine sometimes. That's partly why I wanted to come. Like I wanted to do something different. It was one of the first times that I was like, oh, firstly, like you're aware of the rigid routine that you keep to yourself, and like, yeah, you get sick of it. Like you get trapped in it. And yeah, that's a really great observation. I think so much like you can assume that someone who's very much attached to their routine or like always needs to be in control, like you think that they're choosing that, you can kind of become like your own prisoner to your own need of things to be a certain way.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think he and it's been like years and years, I don't think he knows how to break out of it.
You know what else I find really interesting about that in him is that there's not really any improvisation in classical music. Like, I think of classical music as being very exact, very deliberate, very like, and I'm sure it also is in how you relate to it and how you like I'm sure it's dynamic in the way you interact, but there's so much precision and so much structure. And it feels to me like a style of music and a style of art that doesn't bend a lot. Like the same way that ballet is like a very held style of dance compared to many others that have more of the other dynamics in them. Like somehow the music piece actually to me like really it makes a lot of sense.
It's interesting. I love that comparison to ballet, and then I was also just thinking it requires so much strength to be able to hold those positions. I think my dad's lacking that. There's like there's a there's a like, I don't know, a gut that I feel is missing with him.
I think there's a difference between
Not missing,
like
but maybe
strength.
underdeveloped.
Strength has to have movement in it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's like bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something can get brittle and dry and hard if you go in that direction too much, and there's less and less moisture and less movement.
Yeah.
So it's almost like strength is he may be lacking in strength because there's not enough movement.
Yeah, when I think of strength, like I'm not thinking like he obviously doesn't need more like tightness,
Right.
but he needs like a virility, like a root. You know what I'm saying? Like something hot. I think when he's like excited about something or passionate about something, it's very airy. It's very like up here. And he's also a composer, and like he's very dreamy.
Mm.
You probably get like that kind of quality from him. And yeah, there's something binding. I think about like a root or like mud, like a heat that glues everything together and keeps the center. And I know it's in there somewhere.
Well, what's interesting is the combination of the like airy, dreamy, amorphous, and the rigidity of
Right.
routine and belief.
But like too much air, something dries out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant about the moisture.
Yeah, moisture. Yeah. I feel like he has no idea what to do with feelings. He's like, what's this? What's happening? What is this?
That the dynamic between them is fascinating in that way.
Yeah.
Or like not the dynamic between them, but the two side by side.
Yeah. Right.
Like so interesting that doesn't know what to do with feeling.
Well, there's a lot of feeling in my family.
Is yeah.
I think it's been hard.
You mean for everyone? Or
For
him?
them. For like my parents. I think they would actually really get each other
If
they were vulnerable with one another. But I don't think they know how to be at this point. You know, there's a lot of resentment that builds up over time. And there's like a lot of, you just become very certain about who that person is. And I think they could both really surprise each other if they gave each other the chance. We're both very impatient with one another for the exact opposite things. My mom is constantly like, come on, let's go. And my dad is like, stay. Just let's be still for a while. And they're both right.
that's really interesting.
also wonder, so he was married when he was very young. And he was about, okay. So also,
You mean previously?
yeah.
Oh,
I know. I remember finding this out when I was like 10 or something. It was like, what? So he was like a bit of an awkward kid. And according to him, his mother was very controlling, was not allowed girlfriends. I don't know. So according to him, she didn't feel comfortable him having any other woman in his life. According to him, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, and then apparently he got married at age 20. She was 17 at the time. And like he could not get enough of her. Like he hasn't really gone into detail of what exactly he means by that, but I can kind of get it. And it was just like he just clung so hard. I think he fell really hard and clung really hard. And then that was really suffocating for her. And they divorced after like 2 years or something. And I think he actually like, took a really hard lesson from that.
Richard?
Don't claim.
This is what you just said is his telling of it to you.
Mm. And even their relationship has always been very much based on friendship, and they're the first to always say that. Like they kind of shy away from the romantic aspect of the marriage. They're like, no, friendship is most important. Almost to the point where I'm like, are you guys not okay with being in love with each other? Is there something dangerous about that for you?
Mm. I mean, also, I think it's very easy to put a lot of very romantic notions on to marriage, and I think that there are numerous different ways to do it, and I don't think we should do the like Disneyfication of it.
For sure.
So like maybe they're not in love.
Yeah, which is it's interesting to think why they chose each other then. Because it sounds like a very platonic decision that they made.
Right. Which frankly, like, I don't think I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that at all. It's a way to go. Just like the other one. You know, it's not like more right to not get married. It's not more right to marriage is so strange. I almost feel like it's weird that we think everyone's doing it for the same reason.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Like this is obviously like, yeah, that I sort of think that all relationships are the same. Kind of.
Wait, you think all relationships are the same? Wait, you mean like as opposed to friendships, romantic?
No.
What do you mean?
I know that's one of your favorite topics, but
Okay.
we can talk about it if you
No, it's okay.
I mean that I kind of just assume that everyone who's married is in love.
Mm.
And that everyone who's in love is best friends, are best friends. And that everyone who, like I have a lot of assumptions that I make about particularly people that are married, because I'm like, oh, they have a sense of certainty that I cannot relate to. And I actually don't know if they do.
I don't think I care at all.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's really easy, at least in my limited experience, it's really easy to like assume things about what makes a marriage a thing or what makes a team work. And actually there's like sort of like infinite ways to do it.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
who says one is like, maybe you don't want to marry you. Like, I'm trying to think, maybe you don't want to marry your best friend. Maybe you're like, this over here is my best friend. This over here is purely my husband. I don't know. But there's all different ways to do it. It doesn't mean one thing.
Like emotions can get messy. So I can see them or anyone kind of making an idea like, you know what, for something really lasting and solid, which I feel like I need in my life, I'm going to go with something that feels just safe.
Also, it's not like there aren't emotions in other forms, in other relationships, you know? Other relationships can be very emotional. It's the distinction between romantic love, which again is one thing in the English language, but there are like, you know, the like 6 or 7 different Greek words for love that all have their distinctly different undertones. So yeah.
Wait, I thought of this when you were talking. I thought of this for some reason after our discussion last night. I ended up listening to Richard Dawkins last night at like 4 a.m. I was like, why am I veering far into the science field now? Okay, whatever, I'm doing this. And he was talking all about like Darwin and evolution of the species. Okay, wait. And for the first time, you know how you sometimes say like, I think men are useless.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, it's not perfect. Like it's not like man and woman are like two halves necessarily. This made sense to me last night. Maybe it doesn't hold water in the light of day. Okay.
So it's getting dark.
There you go. It'll make sense soon. So it's not like, oh, like woman is this, woman is yin, and man is yang. And like it's two halves of a whole. And so like, I don't know, for all of like women's deficiencies, or not deficiencies, but like basically that there's a balance there.
Complementary.
Very complementary. Last night I was like, oh, that's not how evolution works. Like it's entirely possible that for just like the propagation of the species, men would be a certain way and women would be another way. And like it could be that like a gender in a species could like act in a certain way that's like not great for modern day life.
What?
But it worked like
that
genetically. Do you know what I mean though? And I'm not just talking about humans either. It was kind of like I just saw that like I create this like perfect union with all things, which is basically like a binary. And I was like, oh no, like nature's way weirder than that.
I think I get it. I'm not sure I do.
I think it's basically like that it's not necessarily all balanced. The
Do you
balance
mean
can be
that
off
even if
because
there are-
nature's like, what the fuck is going on?
Is nature like, what the fuck is going on though?
It doesn't always make sense.
Really? Because I thought that evolution was the definition of sense.
What I mean by like it doesn't make sense is it's just like it evolved because it evolved to be that way because that meant it kept on living.
Right, which is a deeply unifying principle that creates a kind of sense.
Which creates a kind of sense, but it's not like a perfect sense. It's not.
So
like
are you
a
saying just
meant to be
because
this way sense?
are you saying just because people have a role doesn't mean they're doing it well?
Wait, people have a role doesn't mean they're doing it well.
Like just because men have a role in propagation of the species doesn't mean they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
I'm trying to link the perfect thing with the what I perceive to be deep functionality of evolution. Because I don't think of nature as being chaos or arbitrary. I don't think evolution is arbitrary.
No, arbitrary is the wrong word. I mean, essentially, it's all mutation.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, like balance and perfection, and the opposite of that. I don't know what the opposite of that is exactly. Because it's not imbalance. It's like just whatever it is.
What?
This really made sense to me at 4 a.m. Like in the same way that like coral will be all kinds of weird shapes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect. It's not like, yes, look at the like perfect geometry of that coral.
Mm-hmm.
So like a species is kind of like that. And it works to the extent that it works, but it also doesn't work in all kinds of different places. And it's not that like then the other gender of that species balances it out. They each have their role to play like in propagating their genes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're entirely functional.
That's all they are then is functional.
Like they're functional, but it's not optimal. Maybe that's the best one. Like it's not.
The language is like folding back on itself in a way that's
Yeah.
really confusing.
Yeah. Like it just doesn't work a lot of the time. It actually doesn't work a lot of the time, but it's as good as we have. And then the world gets shaped around that, even though it's kind of like, huh?
I'm very curious what mutations or evolutionary steps you think of being like, what? Like, what is the what part?
So, for instance, just with like men being more promiscuous, if they are.
I don't know.
Like, that's not a. That's just kind of like a weird feature that they have.
As opposed to
something that should be or is good.
Are you telling me that you last night realized that not everything that is good?
Possibly.
Oh my god!
Possibly, honestly. For some reason, I'm just thinking of like weird sea creatures in the ocean that I'm like, what the hell? Why does it look like this? I don't know. It just looks like this.
But it works really invariably. It works really well that it's like that.
It works pretty well, and again, everything grows around it too.
Mm-hmm.
So like humans at this point are like shaping their environment to suit their weird mutations.
Meaning,
Meaning like we live in houses.
yeah. What's that got to do with other species? Shaping the evolution of other species? You mean like breeding and shit?
The evolution of the species.
Yeah, you said things grow around.
So I'm saying
The
like it
weird
works.
fish.
So like now we have a world that like works for human beings the way that they are, as opposed to like a world that works. So there's like this weird species that like comes out of the water and is just like a certain way and like needs things to be this way and that way and this way and that way and this way and that way. And then they happen to be like really
Mhm.
good at dominating.
Mhm.
And then they get to decide what the world looks like
Mhm.
and shape it to them. And it works really well, but only because they're able to control so much.
So you're saying we're not the pinnacle of evolution?
Definitely not.
Right.
Right. And you're like, yeah, obviously.
No, we're clearly a cancer.
I guess I also just thought last night I was like, oh, there might everything's always like put into these spheres of like masculine, feminine, masculine. Like there's a balancing act that I see happening in that of like everything evening itself out.
Yeah, but I feel like there's some either moralizing getting added to the mixture there,
Probably, yeah.
or some romanticization getting added in there, because we are balanced in the literal sense of like we're at 51% men and women surviving, living.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition of balance. And we're clearly a successful species because there are so many of us. So it's working great.
Right.
For
On
the
that level.
species.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very functional, even if it is horrendous. So like, is it then a layer of morality that like everything should be the way it is? Is it just like the world is not perfect? The species
It
is
might
not
be
perfect?
it might be a more breaking down of that for me. More and more. I'm sure this is why I'm sure everyone has been more aware of this than I have been. I just really thought that like people were in charge. Like people knew what they were doing.
Right. I think everyone at some point.
And everyone in a
realizes.
certain position was there. Like we kind of talked about this in terms of like people who are hugely successful deserve to be hugely successful. And I was just like, yeah, of course they are. They're the most talented people. And we were like, what? What are you talking about? I just have kind of like trusted the order of things, the hierarchy of things, like that the winners are the winners and the losers are the losers. And everything is in its right place and is there for a reason. Yeah.
Everything's there for a reason, probably is true, but yeah, otherwise I think that's grammatically not true.
Yeah, so now more and more I'm able to like anyone just be like, oh, that's all you're doing? Cool, okay. That's it?
I said something to my dad today in this epic conversation where I was like, I think most people assume that the people who are in and this is Trump era accepted, like definitely putting that aside, in general, other than him and the aberration that has been the last few years, I think people generally think that the people making decisions are like the best people to be making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, what? No, they aren't. And I was like, no, I know they're not. But I genuinely think a lot of people think that. And he didn't seem, I don't know if he didn't agree or he was a little like, he wasn't like, mm-hmm. He didn't like totally get or agree or anything.
Yeah.
With that. because I was trying to expound my how to fix the world philosophy to him today,
Great. Oh my gosh.
which I've been working on for 24 hours. um, and
That's going to be the next ebook.
Yeah.
How to fix the world
I was
in 24 hours.
no kidding thinking about that. Not an ebook, but I was like, but you have to write a pamphlet. Are you like in a pamphlet, right? Right. Make a everything's feeling very doable right now. But like maybe it should, because this is not disconnected to what you're saying. Maybe it should feel doable to write a pamphlet about how to fix the world. Because it's not.
doable.
It's kind of like it's because otherwise I'm like, oh, I don't know how to fix the world. Let the people who know how to fix the world write those pamphlets. Not that there are pamphlets about how to fix the world, but I mean like just assuming that someone's got it. Like someone is sitting there making the best decisions.
Right. And this comes down, I think, a lot to knowledge. We assume, like, or at least I do, I assume that if someone knows more about politics, then they're the best person. Because I'm stupid. I don't understand economics. I don't understand, like, foreign policy. So I can't say that. Like,
Mhm.
things are so much more complicated than I'll ever know. So other people who went to school for that are the only ones who can talk about it.
Who can talk about it or who can do it?
Maybe both. For me, they get like pushed together because if you can't do it, then you shouldn't talk about it. If you can't talk about it, you can't do it. Anyway.
I don't know the same rule.
Yeah.
Because I do think people like that should be the ones doing it.
Right.
Like I don't think I would be good at being the president because I don't know a shit ton about
But those
the
people
Constitution
too might
or-
not know a lot about like psychology or
Right.
human nature.
Right. So to discount your own knowledge or your own information or to assume that what was I going to say something about because I was saying something wanting to tell you something in the context of me telling my dad.
Okay.
So
It was like that the people in charge are the
right. Because I was trying to say that the reason women, for example, should be in charge at least of half, 50 to 51%, 49 to 51% of all decision making on every level.
mm-hmm.
I was trying to say that that's not an emotional decision.
Mm-hmm.
Like has been so emotional to me because I've seen it through the lens of like social justice, civil rights, fundamental equality, like all of these extremely ethically dense things. It's right. And I realized that actually it's literally just the most practical decision to do. I don't like it's not for the women. It's not for us that we should put 50 to 51% of the people in charge be women.
Right.
It's not because we deserve it. It's because that's objectively the strongest way to do the task.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I was going with this.
that how you fix Dora? I don't know.
I told you. I don't think it's that complicated. I'm like one of the most emotional people like you'll ever see, as Trump would say. I'm like the most emotional person. If I can like look at this through a non-emotional lens, when it is highly personal and highly charged to me, and like has been central to my heart muscle, feminism, all of this kind of stuff has been so important to me that I didn't even notice that the laws of physics or the most basic we shouldn't be doing it because it's the right thing to do. Not we shouldn't be doing it because of that, but I mean like the reason we should do it is because it's going to work better than anything else.
Right. As opposed to it being fair or...
As opposed to any of the numerous things that it can and will be.
I mean, that's not a bad argument. Just if you look at most women have a desire to nurture and to take care of. Even if you look at it like through like a stereotypical lens, okay, women like preserve and protect.
Yeah, because all the people who are like one marriage is between one man and one woman, all of those people are basically agreeing to build their families, their most basic social structures, on the union between man and woman. But then the union between man and woman suddenly fails when it comes to more than 5 people.
Yeah.
More than 500 people, more than 5,000 people. Like, why is the way we did the government so different than the way we did families?
So many answers. I don't think you need to know the why. You know the why.
Right. It's more of like a...
It's just, it never got... No one ever changed it. No one was like, hey, so if women are equal, yeah, this doesn't work anymore. Or this never worked in the first place.
I'm wondering, I don't know the answer to this. I'm wondering if that's because people don't genuinely buy that 50% is the strongest. 50-50 is the strongest option.
What do you mean?
The across the board best option. Like the highest functioning.
You think it should be more?
More what?
More women?
No.
Men? Or just
No.
Okay. It's the whole,
I lost
like,
my train of thought, but
the reason why is because of women needing to stay home. That's why.
yeah, it's not that I don't understand the sociological occurrences or like details around this. It's not like I'm not understanding the history.
I also feel like, I don't know, I think politics is a gross game.
But why?
I don't like the election structure that exists. I don't have a better solution for it, but I don't like it. I think it's gross, and I think it lends itself to overextended egos, and your career becomes about you getting elected.
No, I mean like why does...
Why is that related?
Yeah, why did you bring it up just now? Like, what was the train of thought?
I guess, and I might be wrong always, it seems like a game that more men, it's definitely been changing, but more men would want to play versus women.
Mhm.
Because it's more about status.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when only half of your brain is working.
What do you mean?
You get like one side heavy ideas, and everything that you build comes out of only one
Yeah,
side.
you're
of your
saying
brain.
like it looks the way it is
Yeah.
because it has been unbalanced. Yeah. Like there's a reason women kind of need to present themselves as masculine.
Yeah.
When they take up political careers or any kind of working career,
Or
really.
any kind of managerial
Yeah,
anything.
because like the infrastructure of it has been designed for men
Mhm.
by men. And they're like, this is what a career is. No, that's just what you guys came up with back then.
It makes me think that anything short of a like seriously down the line 50-50 fucking quota of on every level is the only way to even like begin to get a different place.
Mm.
And I think I have always assumed that this whole thing about like consciousness and stuff like that, um, I've been really focused on the moral and ethical implications of all of this stuff. So it's almost like I'm waiting for the morality to win. Like we don't even have to wait for that because it makes more sense now. It already makes more sense. Sense is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Sense is what
I
we
don't
do.
think morality wins ever. Like I think in terms of even global warming, it just has to get to a place where it's more attractive to buy an electric guitar. Guitar. an electric car, which it's starting to be. Like you just can't depend on human morality. You can't. At least not yet.
I don't think the whole global warming thing would be happening the same if we had 50-50. Because again, archetypically, women are like nurturers and preservers.
Yeah.
They're not like take all you caners.
Yeah. And I think they would be really strong leaders. They are really strong leaders. Because they're usually serving the people they're connected to.
I never realized that it's like of course they would be. Of course they would be great. I just mean like the whole team has not got a chance. If half of the team is not playing.
Hmm. Is it because like men just cannot be aware of and looking out for women's best interests?
No, it's because but those binaries like do exist. We wouldn't have the two genders if they both weren't basically necessary and important. It's like deciding to use only one hand forever, even though you've got two hands.
Women have been here.
Being here, yes, but making decisions on a large scale, they are absent. And what I'm saying is, we have ended up in what I would, in a fit of generosity, call a giant clusterfuck. I think everybody agrees on that. Like, I think most people agree that this is a shit show. And I'm saying all of those things are not occurring in places that women are.
So you do believe in a kind of symmetry that needs to exist, maybe in all realms, but at the very least in the realm of decision making and governance.
Governance, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Like presidential cabinet, it has to be half this, half that. End of story. Maybe there should be fucking co-presidents.
I know this is weird, but I always thought that like there was so much emphasis on the family of the president and the first lady.
Mm.
And I know the first lady has certain powers, but I was always like, why not just? So you're electing them both. Why not just elect them both? Actually, like with that family analogy. Yeah,
I hope you don't mean like people who are already in a union.
I do. I mean, it made more sense. It doesn't make sense with this presidency.
I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, the two families move into the White House.
Two families.
Mm-hmm.
Both alike.
Yeah. And all of this is not, again, like I've always been like, there should be equal numbers of us because we are the same. Like we're equally functioning. Like we're equally functional. But I almost now am thinking that it should be half and half because we are not the same.
Hmm.
And that's why, actually. Like the people who are like men and women are different. It's those people's argument that I'm using to be like, right, then that means the strongest team a nation, a state, a country, or whatever has is one of both.
Right.
If it's good enough for your fucking children, It's good enough for this country.
I'm not going to open an ice cream shop with one flavor.
Why would you do that? It's nonsensical to do that. It's nonsensical.
You're definitely limiting yourself.
Why isn't the brain just one thing? You know, I was saying this to my folks, like we have one spinal cord and like one heart and two lungs, but I was like, wait, there are two lungs. My dad was like, they're identical. I was like, oh, right.
So I actually like really want to talk to you about something, but we're already an hour and 40 minutes in.
Into what?
Into this. Okay. So did you know that do you know anything about split brain consciousness?
I don't know.
So the corpus callosum is like the connecting tissue. And people who have had their tissue severed, it actually looks like each side of your brain has its own consciousness.
Interesting. I'm not a remotely surprised.
Which totally breaks down that there's like a unifying person consciousness here. It means like literally there can be like one part of your brain that has no idea what the other part is doing. That can actually be like screwing each other over or like what's going on? So yeah, there's no like unified self.
Isn't that kind of weird? That our main governing unit is not a one thing? Is not singular? That is batshit.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I think I could put it in a basket. I really do. I'm fucking serious.
I believe you.
I'm gonna make a pamphlet.
Oh, yes.
Mostly because I like the word pamphlet. Hi, Mr. V.
Oh.
I was just going off on my maybe she's on drugs jag of why do we have two hemispheres of the brain? Yeah, and the thing that the reason meditation is good is that it fundamentally grows your corpus callosum.
Does it?
Yes. That is crazy. It's not making either thing bigger or better. It is making the communication
right
bigger and better.
Yeah.
Crazy. What do you mean, yes, I hear you? Did I ask you if you could hear? Mr. V, did I ask you? This whole time we've been talking about not clear what to call it. I've been outlining my pamphlet.
Manifesto?
Oh, hi, good
No,
night.
not a manifesto.
Could be.
Oh. Good night.
Yeah, you.
I think every person should write a manifesto.
I love the idea of a manifesto.
Right?
It's so presumptuous. It's great. Like if you think that something you wrote is worthy of the name manifesto.
Exactly.
You fancy.
Yeah.
All right, it's not a pamphlet anymore. I'll write a pamphlet, and then when it comes into physical being, it will mutate into a manifesto.
Okay.
like a caterpillar butterfly thing.
I don't think it's a bad. I think it's a good idea. I think everyone should write something similar to that. Actually,
I don't want to read everyone's.
no, I'm sure people would come up with terrible things, but I think everyone would benefit from thinking along those lines. Like, okay, how would you fix the world? Like, actually start thinking that way.
A lot of people are like income inequality.
In what?
A lot of people are like income inequality. I think fixing this would fix that.
Yeah.
End of outline.
Like everyone needs a home.
Hmm?
Like everyone needs a home.
As being a thing that we fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all this fucking obvious shit. And assuming that people know what they're doing can be really dangerous. And I think that it is clearer now than ever that that's not the case, because we literally have like a mutant demon version of like toxic masculinity in charge. Like this is what we got. This is where you go when you only go one way. An ocean-sized fucking bathtub of corruption and violence and I think it might be about being not in balance.
Yeah. I feel like we all got like off the rails. We need to like come back together and like group, like huddle up, like the whole world. I mean this, not just America, and be like, wait. So what are we doing here? Like, you know what I think in it? It's like we need an editor who's like, hey, I think you've lost like the trail of the story. Like, let's rehuddle. What is it we're trying to do right now? Because I think we're all just like scrambling to get as much as we can and save our asses and
All of those are super masculine.
not. And I mean, sure, that's what the world could be about. Sure, we can have it like that.
We do have it like that.
Yeah. Is it the best world to live in?
I think it's going great. I guess that's part of it, is that I don't know that anybody thinks it is.
Right.
It seems like consensus, and I don't know if this is like another one of my like coastal illusions that comes from living in LA or New York, totally out of touch with the whole fucking country. But it doesn't seem like this is going great for anyone, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, frankly, that the impulse to hire someone for a job, elect them when they are so terminally ill-suited for the job, is kind of like a fuck it, let's throw a grenade into the system kind of a vote.
Yeah.
Like, let's just do this. Let's make the Tiger King. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's something like anarchical about it.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I think that impulse is not wrong. You know, the 99% like Occupy Wall Street is a similar thing of like, this whole fucking thing is not working. This whole thing is not working. And every avenue of change or progress that I have thus far thought about or considered is incremental, is complex, is layered. And maybe that's what anything that maybe all change is that. But if we have to start somewhere, I don't think I would be good at it, but I was very like taken aback by the comment in my thing about being president, and you were like, I'll vote for you. Only because I've sort of been like, I wouldn't know what to do. And I wouldn't.
Mhm.
I've never had what I think is an actual idea about how to fix how to change it. I've never had an actual like, how about this pretty tangible thing
Hmm.
that's not simple necessarily, but it's not fucking rocket science.
Hmm.
Like, assuming we ever vote for anything ever again, they just have to do like a double thing on the ballot. So, like any governors, state governors that are women right now, they'd run another election, either a special election, which is clearly within the capacity, like the bureaucratic structure to do the infrastructure there. Either run a special election or lump it in with the next thing, the next round, which is in a few months. And be like, great, so we have this sitting governor. We need a second one.
Hmm. It's not a bad idea. Has the size of governors and senators increased since the population has increased?
I don't think substantially.
Hmm.
No. I don't think so.
Do you think it would make decision making harder to
Yeah.
have two?
Yes, it is. But people do it in marriages every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
And having like some kind of spotlight is only going to make it like I hope, less toxic relationship. So it's not like actual houses where people beat each other and shit.
Mhm.
It's like a relationship in under light.
There's an accountability built in with it too.
Which America's all about. America's all about checks and fucking balances.
But accountability, I also just mean in terms of like it's just hugely beneficial to work with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read your pamphlet.
This whole thing has either seemed overwhelming, not doable, wouldn't know where to start, so many things to change. Like, it's always seemed like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I admire the people who are like, here, let's start here. But I've never gotten profoundly behind any of them, of the ideas. Like, I fully think that income inequality is a source of all kinds of shit in this country. 100%.
Yeah.
I am not clear how to change that. I don't know how you would go about changing that. That is not a overhaul of laws. Everything else seems complicated. And this would be complicated, but it feels complicated in like a contained way. And maybe it's because I'm just like starting to think about it. But
Oh, you're supposed to trust yourself. And all projects are good.
every project is a good project. This pamphlet's a great pamphlet.
It sounds like when you stopped needing to know things, you started to know things. Do you want to read?
Yeah. It's because both sides of my brain get to play.
Hey!
Not just one side of the brain.
Yeah. If only we knew which side.
Who came up with this? You or you?
Isn't that crazy that we could have multiple consciousnesses?
I'm not clear on the connection between consciousness and identity, though. So I don't know if multiple consciousnesses means multiple identities.
No, because identity is like memory and all that shit. It's
All
like
kinds of stuff.
it's like I just think of consciousness as awareness, like a space where identity kind of drops into. So you could have two. I know.
Short circuiting.
We're starting book 15.
Yeah. So sorry for taking 7 hours, but it couldn't be helped.
No, it was important.
Honestly, I think it was. Did you have Uber open?
I didn't mean to. I clicked on it.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah.
what
Why?
a weird app to be on right now.
Imagine. You
Oh,
know,
my
like how you
Uber's
go.
here.
You know how like you go on Postmates sometimes just to be
Yeah.
like, what's on Postmates party?
Yeah.
Imagine like being on Uber. Who's nearby?
Yeah. Oh, 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, so we didn't read a lot last night. We finished book 14. I can't drink properly. What happened?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still on the previous track. Book 15.
Okay. Hold on to it. Just
Yeah, it's about War and Peace. It's about wheeling War and Peace into this whole tapestry. I wonder what's going to happen in book 15.
Me too.
Is this the final book?
This is the final book.
Oh my god. There's not going to be any more the starting book, blah, blah, blah.
No, there's going to be epilogue.
Maybe that's a good time to do Instagram Live, the epilogue.
The epilogue? Sure. Why not?
I don't know.
Will there be spoilers?
I haven't read it yet.
Right. I mean, can you
Can we not
spoil
just
War and Peace?
assume
The book has been out for a while.
It's been out. You had a chance to read it. In fact, everyone has been telling you to read it recently. That's another thing that's so crazy.
Yeah.
The left brain agreement with a purely right brain. Ah, fuck, which one is which? A right brain, the right. The sun. Let's just give them names.
I think the right brain is more creative.
What? You said the opposite yesterday.
No. I said that because it's the opposite of what you think it is. So, like, left side of the body is thought of to be like left. I think of as being more creative, except when it comes to the brain, because the right side is controlling the left.
The science. Going back to the name I gave. The science part
Mm-hmm.
panned out to agree with the art part when it came to this thing. I was like, now's the time to read War and Peace. And then other people doing the other thing, like, here's why this is the time to read War and Peace. Well, it didn't come from that side. It came from the different side.
Yeah, you got both. You got both going on. I think you had both, actually, too, in your argument. You had reason.
What was it? Now's a good time. Like,
No, you did have. Your argument was. What was your argument?
exactly. How did that great?
It was like it would be great to read a book. Firstly, it would be great to have a project, and it would be great to read a book that like you're never gonna read.
I think that was a slightly retroactive
Yeah,
reasoning.
did you just have a? I don't know the first inception of this idea. I don't know if you shot up.
It's just
in the middle. Of the night.
it was just a bubble.
Yeah.
It's like a bubble. It's like farting in a swimming pool.
Okay,
That's how it happened.
so it's from the right side.
Can we just use their names?
Yeah. Wait, no.
I think left brain's creative and Janessa thinks left brain is science.
Okay.
There's
I'm
no
so
universe in
right.
which I'm right
I'm
about
so-
this.
What? What part side of the brain is creative? Can I just go back to school and become a neuroscientist?
Yes.
Yep. Wait.
Yes, you can. Seems like this answer shouldn't take that long to Google.
No, I know. It's just the way that it presented the answer is stupid. So it's like, what side of the brain is creative? And then there's like left. But then the actual paragraph says the left side of the brain is responsible for controlling the right side of the body. It also performs tasks that have to do with logic, such as in science and mathematics. On the other hand, the right hemisphere coordinates the left side of the body and performs tasks that have to do with creativity and the arts. So it's the right side.
So if I were following the advice that I gave my mother, I need to be knocking on this side.
Wait, what? Repeat that.
Which side do I need to be knocking? Which side do I need to do tapping therapy to?
Is your mother?
Like how I told my mother to bang on the muscle that she needs to wake up.
So this side, right?
Oh,
Well,
I just knocked this side for like 20 seconds.
yeah, this side. I think we could all use some knocking on this.
Don't
side.
you think?
Yeah.
My sister says that, and I love it. She says, "Don't you think in moments where it's like really not clear that you would think that?" In a way that just
Really?
means, in a way that basically just is another way for her to say like, "I like that." Don't you think?
And you're like, yeah. And she's like, right.
Yeah.
Now you're on my side.
And I'm like, what would lead you to say that? Think that I think that? Either I'm gonna end up super smart or with a concussion. Okay.
Ooh. Yeah, see?
Are you cheating? Oh,
Eee.
what that?
It's like, for, see, your right side is all colorful. And your left side is like, chemistry.
Who's this? Whose?
I just want,
That's a fucked up drawing, dude.
why is it fucked up?
Way to make one seem completely like
I know, right? One is, oh, you can't even see. One is like so boring, you can't
I
even
mean, Madagascar, one of them is like the fun side of the island. and
Totally.
The other one's like the lame side.
I'm like, hey, holistic thinking. Okay. So, War and Peace. Yeah, we wrapped up that book and we were like, hey, the French left. And why didn't the Russians capture them? Because that was not their intention.
And also, it was unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. They're leaving. What are you going to do? But apparently they did try. They did do some things. I don't know.
Yeah, they chased them out.
They chased them out. They spurred them onward. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. And now,
And they give them little paper slices. They sliced at their ankles. They sliced their heels.
what do you think's gonna happen?
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the characters remaining alive?
We got Pierre in one corner. We got Nicholas. We got Natasha. We got Mary. And we still got Dolokhov and Denisov. We still got a merry cast of characters.
Okay.
Like Kutuzov's still there. You know,
Kutuzov is
actually, there's a lot of people still living.
Kutuzov is like a stage manager.
He is.
You know?
Yeah.
He's just a bot.
Yeah.
My mother told me that when she learned about Napoleon, she was like, in school, I read something about his girlfriend. And I was like, excuse me? And she sent me the title. We'll do this later.
Oh, okay.
And she fully did.
I think Nicholas and Mary are going to get married.
I agree.
100%. Sonia.
I think they're going to live with Natasha. Natasha's going to live with them.
Really?
Yes. And I think she's going to spend a lot of time with Andrew's son. Like, I think that's going to be in a relationship. Not a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean he's of age? He's like 19.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I meant the other one.
Interesting. Okay. And Pierre?
I don't think
He doesn't end up with Natasha.
I think Pierre's just gonna be their gardener.
Pretty much.
I think he's gonna live in a van down by the river and just cut their grass.
I don't know what Pierre would do in this modern world.
This modern world, as in 1813, or
This
now?
one. Like, he's rich, so he kind of gets by on whatever that is that he does. Because
He'd be like the WeWork guy.
Yeah, something like that. Actually,
be
he
like,
might do
"I start
perfectly
fucking
in this
company."
world. He'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Who cares?
How about this? He'd be like the guy who threw that party,
Fire Island? No.
the fire festival.
Yes.
He'd be like, "Oh wait, you have to do a party? There has to be a party for the party that I invited everybody to."
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the great stories of our time.
It really is, actually.
I think it's a parabola. Parabola. I think it's a quintessential, like, that is who we are.
Yep. I think so, too.
It's like it's a modern day folk tale.
That's pretty much all you need to know about this time.
Yeah.
Just that. This century. I'll be like, and this. I would really like that, actually.
It'd be so humiliating. Chapter 1.
Wait, I want to make my predictions.
Oh yeah, Janessa can't resist talk of the future.
Yeah, right? I think they'll all be... I'll upload themselves. No. I don't think Natasha's going to live with them.
I thought you meant about modern day folk tales.
Oh.
I thought you were going to be like,
Oh, no. I mean about the book.
Shrink next door.
I'm trying to stay on topic. Okay?
Sorry. You're right. We've gone to shit since you stopped captaining the ship.
Oh, maybe she's going to marry Denisov. Why not?
I don't think she's going to marry Jesus.
Yeah, that's what she thinks she's going to become a nun? No. She's way too, like, passionate, but she's not going to live, like, a simple, quiet life.
I think I imagine her like that girl from Sense and Sensibility when she's recovering from her fever. Marianne.
Right.
And she's like, I'm so weak. It's from all the passion that I had.
I think, I don't know, I'm just going to go dark. So yeah, I don't know, I'm just going to make weird predictions. Yeah, she's going to marry Denisov.
I like that.
And Sonia's going to kill herself.
Petya's dead. I forgot about that for a moment.
Yeah.
So the Countess will definitely die.
Or Sonia will marry Dolokhov, right? Because he was into her for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, like, all the women have to get married because they have to.
Otherwise the book's not over.
Yeah. It's like, what about those women?
Those unmarried women.
Oh, God.
Chapter 1.
Oh, and Vasily's going to die. He's old.
What?
Or Kutuzov. Someone. An old man.
Is Vasily? Like,
you know what? A book has not.
Thinking about him right now.
You haven't written a book if at the end of it an old man does not die. I mean, I guess Platon died.
I don't think he was that old. At least not in here. Am I right?
I think he was a starseed.
Am I right? Without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Without a doubt. Nice one.
Chapter 1?
Yes. Oh, great.
When seeing a dying animal,
Cool.
yes, go on. A man feels a sense of horror. Substance similar to his own is perishing before his eyes. But when it is a beloved and intimate human being that is dying, besides this horror at the extinction of life, there is a severance, a spiritual wound, which, like a physical wound, is sometimes fatal and sometimes heals, but always aches and shrinks at any external irritating touch.
After Prince Andrew's death, Natasha and Princess Mary alike felt this. Drooping in spirit and closing their eyes before the menacing cloud of death that overhung them, they dared not look life in the face. They carefully guarded their open wounds from any rough and painful contact. Everything, a carriage passing rapidly in the street, a summons to dinner, the maid's inquiry what dress to prepare, or worse still, any word of insincere or feeble sympathy seemed an insult, painfully irritated the wound, interrupting that necessary quiet in which they both tried to listen to the stern and dreadful choir that still resounded in their imagination and hindered their gazing into those mysterious, limitless vistas that for an instant had opened out before them.
Only when alone together were they free from such outrage and pain. They spoke little even to one another, and when they did, it was of very unimportant matters.
Both avoided any allusion to the future. To admit the possibility of a future seemed to them to insult his memory. Still more carefully did they avoid anything relating to him who was dead. It's so they've just neglected the child, then I assume.
He has a tutor.
It seemed to them that what they had lived through and experienced could not be expressed in words, and that any reference to the details of his life infringed the majesty and sacredness of the mystery that had been accomplished before their eyes.
Continued abstention from speech and constant avoidance of everything that might lead up to the subject, this halting on all sides at the boundary of what they might not mention, brought before their minds with still greater purity and clearness what they were both feeling.
But pure and complete sorrow is as impossible as pure and complete joy. Princess Mary, in her position as absolute and independent arbiter of her own fate and guardian and instructor of her nephew, was the first to be called back to life from that realm of sorrow in which she had dwelt for the first fortnight. She received letters from her relations to which she had to reply. The room in which little Nicholas had been put was damp, and he began to cough. Alpatish came to Yaroslavl with reports on the state of their affairs and with advice and suggestions that they should return to Moscow to the house on the Vozdvizhenka street, which had remained uninjured and needed only slight repairs. Whose house is that? Life did not stand still, and it was necessary to live. Hard as it was for Princess Mary to emerge from the realm of secluded contemplation in which she had lived till then, and sorry and almost ashamed as she felt to leave Natasha alone, yet the cares of life demanded her attention, and she involuntarily yielded to them. She went through the accounts with Alpatish, conferred with Desal about her nephew, and gave orders and made preparations for the journey to Moscow.
Natasha remained alone, and from the time Princess Mary began making preparations for departure, held aloof from her too.
Princess Mary asked the Countess to let Natasha go with her to Moscow, and both parents gladly accepted this offer, for they saw their daughter losing strength every day and thought that a change of scene and the advice of Moscow doctors would be good for her.
I'm not going anywhere, Natasha replied when this was proposed to her. Do please just leave me alone. And she ran out of the room with difficulty, refraining from tears of vexation and irritation rather than of sorrow.
After she felt herself deserted by Princess Mary and alone in her grief, Natasha spent most of the time in her room by herself, sitting huddled up, feet and all, in the corner of the sofa, tearing and twisting something with her slender, nervous fingers, and gazing intently and fixedly at whatever her eyes chanced to fall on. This solitude exhausted and tormented her, but she was in absolute need of it. As soon as anyone entered, she got up quickly, changed her position and expression, and picked up a book or some sewing, evidently waiting impatiently for the intruder to go.
She felt all the time as if she might at any moment penetrate that on which, with a terrible questioning too great for her strength, her spiritual gaze was fixed.
Hmm. One day, toward the end of December, Natasha, pale and thin, dressed in a black woolen gown, her plaited hair negligently twisted into a knot, was crouched, feet and all, in the corner of her sofa. This is how I dress every day. Was crouched, feet and all, in the corner of her sofa, nervously crumpling and smoothing out the end of her sash while she looked at a corner of the door.
She was gazing in the direction in which he had gone, to the other side of life. And that other side of life, of which she had never before thought, and which had formerly seemed to her so far away and improbable, was now nearer and more akin and more comprehensible than this side of life, where everything was either emptiness and desolation, or suffering and indignity.
She was gazing where she knew him to be, but she could not imagine him otherwise than as he had been here. She now saw him again as he had been at Mistishchi, at Troitsa, and at Yaroslavu.
She saw his face, heard his voice, repeated his words and her own, and sometimes devised other words they might have spoken.
There he is, lying back in an armchair in his white cloak, leaning his head on his thin, pale hand. His chest is dreadfully hollow, and his shoulders raised. His lips are firmly closed, his eyes glitter, and a wrinkle comes and goes on his pale forehead. One of his legs twitches just perceptibly, but rapidly. Napoleon? Natasha knows that he is struggling with terrible pain. What is that pain like? Why does he have that pain? What does he feel? How does it hurt him? Thought Natasha. He noticed her watching him, raised his eyes, and began to speak seriously.
One thing would be terrible, said he, to bind oneself forever to a suffering man. It would be continual torture. And he looked searchingly at her. Natasha, as usual, answered before she had time to think what she would say. She said, this can't go on. It won't. You will get well, quite well. She now saw him from the commencement of that scene and relived what she had then felt. She recalled his long, sad, and severe look at those words and understood the meaning of the rebuke and despair in that protracted gaze. I agreed, Natasha now said to herself, that it would be dreadful if he always continued to suffer. I said it then only because it would have been dreadful for him, but he understood it differently. He thought it would be dreadful for me. He then still wished to live and feared death, and I said it so awkwardly and stupidly. I did not say what I meant. I thought quite differently. Had I said what I thought I should have said, even if he had to go on dying, to die continually before my eyes, I should have been happy compared with what I am now. Now there is nothing, nobody. Did he know that? No, he did not, and never will know. And now it will never, never be possible to put it right. And now he again seemed to be saying the same words to her, only in her imagination, Natasha this time gave him a different answer. She stopped him and said, Terrible for you, but not for me. You know that for me there is nothing in life but you, and to suffer with you is the greatest happiness for me. And he took her hand and pressed it as he had pressed it that terrible evening 4 days before his death. And in her imagination she said other tender and loving words, which she might have said then, but only spoke now. I love thee, I love, she said, convulsively pressing her hands and setting her teeth with a desperate effort. She was overcome by sweet sorrow, and tears were already rising in her eyes, and she suddenly asked herself to whom she was saying this. Again, everything was shrouded in hard, dry perplexity. That's interesting, isn't it? Hard, dry perplexity. Hard and dry, because we just talked about dryness. Yeah. Like as a... And again, with a strained frown, she peered toward the world where he was. And now it seemed to her she was penetrating the mystery. But at the instant when it seemed that the incomprehensible was revealing itself to her, a loud rattle of the door handle struck painfully on her ears. Dunyasha, her maid, entered the room quickly and abruptly with a frightened look on her face and showing no concern for her mistress. Come to your papa at once, please, said she with a strange, excited look. A misfortune. About Peter Ilyinich. A letter. Who's that again? Oh, no. Her brother? Maybe, yeah. A letter, she finished with a sob. You still think Natasha's gonna... Yeah, I do. Good. I think she's resilient. Oh my god. For some reason, I didn't think of that news right after this.
I didn't think of it as coming that close together either.
Yeah.
At least she didn't like her brother.
They were best pals.
Yeah. Chapter 2. Besides a feeling of aloofness from everybody, Natasha was feeling a special estrangement from the members of her own family. All of them, her father, mother, and Sonia, were so near to her, so familiar, so commonplace, that all their words and feelings seemed an insult to the world in which she had been living of late, and felt not merely indifferent to them, but regarded them with hostility. She heard Dunyasha's words about Peter Ilyich and a misfortune, but did not grasp them.
What misfortune? What misfortune can happen to them? They just live their own old, quiet, and commonplace life, thought Natasha.
As she entered the ballroom, her father was hurriedly coming out of her mother's room. His face was puckered up and wet with tears. He had evidently run out of that room to give vent to the sobs that were choking him. When he saw Natasha, he waved his arms despairingly and burst into convulsively painful sobs that distorted his soft brown face.
Petya, go, she is calling. And weeping like a child and quickly shuffling on his feeble legs to a chair, he almost fell into it, covering his face with his hands.
Suddenly, an electric shock seemed to run through Natasha's whole being. Terrible anguish struck her heart. She felt a dreadful ache as if something was being torn inside her and she were dying. But the pain was immediately followed by a feeling of release from the oppressive constraint that had prevented her taking part in life. The sight of her father, the terribly wild cries of her mother that she heard through the door, made her immediately forget herself and her own grief.
She ran to her father, but he feebly waved his arms, pointing to her mother's door. Princess Mary, pale and with quivering chin, came out from that room and, taking Natasha by the arm, said something to her. Natasha neither saw nor heard her. She went in with rapid steps, pausing at the door for an instant as if struggling with herself, and then ran to her mother.
The Countess was lying in an armchair in a strange and awkward position, stretching out and beating her head against the wall. Sonia and the maids were holding her arms.
Natasha, Natasha, cried the Countess. It's not true, it's not true, he's lying. Natasha, she shrieked, pushing those around her away. Go away, all of you, it's not true. Killed, ha ha ha, it's not true.
Natasha put one knee on the armchair, stooped over her mother, embraced her, and with unexpected strength raised her, turned her face toward her and toward herself, and clung to her.
Mummy, darling, I'm here, my dearest mummy, she kept on whispering, not pausing an instant.
She did not let go of her mother, but struggled tenderly with her, demanded a pillow and hot water, and unfastened and tore open her mother's dress.
My dearest darling mummy, my precious, she whispered incessantly, kissing her head, her hands, her face, and feeling her own irrepressible and streaming tears tickling her nose and cheeks.
The Countess pressed her daughter's hand, closed her eyes, and became quiet for a moment. Suddenly she sat up with unaccustomed swiftness, glanced vacantly around her, and seeing Natasha, began to press her daughter's head with all her strength. Then she turned toward her daughter's face, which was wincing with pain, and gazed long at it.
Natasha, you love me? She said in a soft, trustful whisper. Natasha, you would not deceive me. You'll tell me the whole truth.
Natasha looked at her with eyes full of tears, and in her look there was nothing but love and an entreaty for forgiveness.
My darling mummy, she repeated, straining all the power of her love to find some way of taking on herself the excess of grief that crushed her mother.
And again, in a futile struggle with reality, her mother, refusing to believe that she could live when her beloved boy was killed in the bloom of life, escaped from reality into a world of delirium.
Natasha did not remember how that day passed, nor that night, nor the next day and night. She did not sleep and did not leave her mother. Her persevering and patient love seemed completely to surround the Countess every moment, not explaining or consoling, but recalling her to life.
During the third night, the Countess kept very quiet for a few minutes, and Natasha rested her head on the arm of her chair and closed her eyes, but opened them again on hearing the bedstead creak. The Countess was sitting up in bed, speaking softly.
How glad I am you have come. You're tired. Won't you have some tea? Natasha went up to her. You have improved in looks and grown more manly, continued the Countess, taking her daughter's hand.
Mamma, what are you saying?
Natasha, he is no more, no more.
And embracing her daughter, the countess began to weep for the first time. What do you mean for the first time?
I guess she hadn't been crying. She'd just been like,
Seriously?
I guess so.
That's not how I imagined it.
Me neither.
Like I made a giant assumption that she was crying if it didn't say that.
Yeah. But no, I guess it never said she was crying. Chapter 3. Princess Mary postponed her departure. Sonia and the Count tried to replace Natasha, but could not. They saw that she alone was able to restrain her mother from unreasoning despair. For 3 weeks, Natasha remained constantly at her mother's side, sleeping on a lounge chair in her room, making her eat and drink, and talking to her incessantly, because the mere sound of her tender, caressing tones soothed her mother.
The mother's wounded spirit could not heal. Petya's dead. I feel really bad for saying so. Obviously, the countess is dead.
Yeah.
A big thing to say. Petya's death had torn from her half her life. When the news of Petya's death had come, she had been a fresh and vigorous woman of 50, really? But a month later, she left her room a listless old woman taking no interest in life. But the same blow that almost killed the countess, this second blow, restored Natasha to life.
The spiritual wound produced by a rending of the spiritual body is like a physical wound, and strange as it may seem, just as a deep wound may heal and its edges join, physical and spiritual wounds alike can yet heal completely only as the result of a vital force from within.
That's true. Natasha's wound healed in that way. She thought her life was ended, but her love for her mother unexpectedly showed her that the essence of life, love, was still active within her. Love awoke, and so did life.
Prince Andrew's last days had bound Princess Mary and Natasha together. This new sorrow brought them still closer to one another. Princess Mary put off her departure, and for 3 weeks looked after Natasha as if she had been a sick child. The last weeks passed in her mother's bedroom had strained Natasha's physical strength.
One afternoon, noticing Natasha shivering with fever, Princess Mary took her to her own room and made her lie down on the bed. Natasha lay down, but when Princess Mary had drawn the blinds and was going away, she called her back.
I don't want to sleep, Mary. Sit by me a little.
You're tired. Try to sleep.
No. Why do you bring me away? She'll be asking for me.
She's much better. She spoke so well today, said Princess Mary.
Natasha lay on the bed and in the semi-darkness of the room scanned Princess Mary's face.
Is she like him? Thought Natasha. Yes, like and yet not like. But she is quite original, strange, new, and unknown, and she loves me. What is in her heart? All that is good. But how? What is her mind like? What does she think about me? Yes, she is splendid.
Mary, she said timidly, drawing Princess Mary's hand to herself. Mary, you mustn't think me wicked. No? Mary, darling, how I love you. Let us be quite friends.
And Natasha, embracing her, began kissing her face and hands, making Princess Mary feel shy but happy by this demonstration of her feelings.
From that day, a tender and passionate friendship, such as exists only between women, was established between Princess Mary and Natasha. They were continually kissing and saying tender things to one another, and spent most of their time together. When one went out, the other became restless and hastened to rejoin her. Together they felt more in harmony with one another than either of them felt with herself when alone. A feeling stronger than friendship sprang up between them, an exclusive feeling of life being possible only in each other's presence. Okay.
Sometimes they were silent for hours. Sometimes, after they were already in bed, they would begin talking and go on till morning. They spoke most of what was long past. Princess Mary spoke of her childhood, of her mother, her father, and her daydreams. And Natasha, who, with a passive lack of understanding, had formerly turned away from that life of devotion, submission, and the poetry of Christian self-sacrifice, now feeling herself bound to Princess Mary by affection, learned to love her past too. and to understand a side of life previously incomprehensible to her. She did not think of applying submission and self abnegation to her own life, for she was accustomed to seek other joys, but she understood and loved in another those previously incomprehensible virtues. For Princess Mary, listening to Natasha's tales of childhood and early youth, there also opened out a new and hitherto uncomprehended side of life, belief in life and its enjoyment.
Just as before, they never mentioned him, so as not to lower, as they thought, their exalted feelings by words. But this silence about him had the effect of making them gradually begin to forget him without being conscious of it.
Natasha had grown thin and pale and physically so weak that they all talked about her health, and this pleased her. But sometimes she was suddenly overcome by fear, not only of death, but of sickness, weakness, and loss of good looks, and involuntarily she examined her bare arm carefully, surprised at its thinness, and in the morning noticed her drawn and, as it seemed to her, piteous face in her glass. It seemed to her that things must be so, and yet it was dreadfully sad.
One day she went quickly upstairs and found herself out of breath. Unconsciously, she immediately invented a reason for going down, and then, testing her strength, ran upstairs again, observing the result.
Another time, when she called Dunyasha, her voice trembled, so she called again, though she could hear Dunyasha coming. Called her in the deep chest tones in which she had been wont to sing, and listened attentively to herself.
She did not know and would not have believed it, but beneath the layer of slime that covered her soul, and seemed to her impenetrable, delicate young shoots of grass were already sprouting, which, taking root, would so cover with their living verdure the grief that weighed her down that it would soon no longer be seen or noticed. The wound had begun to heal from within.
At the end of January, Princess Mary left for Moscow, and the Count insisted on Natasha's going with her to consult the doctors.
The doctors.
They're going to completely screw this up. Medical doctors?
It's funny that they're. What do they think is the matter with her? What?
I'm not sure. I'm just imagining.
It sounds like
She's
grief. Yeah. She probably needs sunshine and food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laughter.
Yeah. Right. I don't know if doctors are gonna anyway.
There was a lot of seeing to people's feelings, though.
Mm.
Like, here, have a brandy because of your feelings.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
that there
you're
was
right.
a bit of here, you are not well. The line between physical illness and emotional was strangely more big than.
Do you think that's right in some way?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm like, oh, maybe shit. Maybe they were onto something.
Yeah. This reminds me of when I went to the GP and was like, I can't breathe, my lungs are not breathing, so need you to fix that. And he was like, have you ever experienced any trauma? And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, he was trying to say benign things. He was like maybe if you weren't potty trained too early. And I was like, I don't think I was potty trained too early.
Whoa.
And he was like, or maybe not if someone hit you, but if someone hit someone near you. It was very now that I think about it, it makes my heart feel warm toward him.
Yeah.
He was trying to come up with the closest approximation without hitting anything on the head, because he didn't know who I was. And at the time I was like, what is wrong with you? Potty training?
Right.
And then he was like, why don't you just take this little thing called Zoloft for 1 month? And I was like, it's my lungs, I can't breathe. He was like, yeah, I know it is.
Wow. That's really sweet.
So maybe that's what the doctor will tell her. It's your heart. It's your heart muscle.
I want to take back everything. I'm like, yeah, she's not well. She needs doctors.
Well, it depends on if the doctor I'm ready to take back everything. What is wrong with these people?
What?
Imagine if she goes into surgery.
Yeah, that's right. She needs
Yeah.
the
They need to remove the grief.
yeah, there's like a
The
little dark
clothing of
there's a dark person inside her now. And they need to take it out.
they need to remove. They should bleed her. That way the grief will come out. Imagine if we, like, by being touchy-feely, got back to, like, the most archaic.
Leeches.
Leeches! They feed on grief.
I think they do.
Yeah, they're horrific creatures. Have you ever been leeched? I mean, like, not deliberately.
Like, did a leech ever find its way onto me? No. You?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not cool. Not cool. It's just there's just something horrendous about it. It's not like there's just something horrendous about it.
Yeah.
I don't even now remember if it hurt.
I don't
It
think
must
it
have done a bit.
I don't think it really hurts. I think it's more of a
I don't know. I can't remember if it did or didn't. There were like 3.
oof.
And they either put salt or burn them off.
Right.
Dicks. The leeches.
Oh, okay. But you're like
I'm
they killed my friends.
Why are you treating them as if they're lower forms of life just because of their intelligences?
It's chapter 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get to do one more?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's getting late. 9:30.
Oh,
After the encounter at Vyazma, where Kutuzov had been unable to hold back his troops in their anxiety to overwhelm and cut off the enemy and so on, the farther movement of the fleeing French and of the Russians who pursued them continued as far as Krasno without a battle. The flight was so rapid that the Russian army pursuing the French could not keep up with them. Cavalry and artillery horses broke down, and the information received of the movements of the French was never reliable.
the men in the Russian army were so worn out by this continuous marching at the rate of 27 miles a day that they could not go any faster.
To realize the degree of exhaustion of the Russian army, it is only necessary to grasp clearly the meaning of the fact that, while not losing more than 5,000 killed and wounded after Tarantino and less than 100 prisoners, the Russian army, which left that place 100,000 strong, reached Krasno with only 50,000.
Shit. The rapidity of the Russian pursuit was just as destructive to our army as the flight of the French was to theirs. Didn't realize that until just now. The only difference was that the Russian army moved voluntarily, with no such threat of destruction as hung over the French, and that the sick Frenchmen were left behind in enemy hands, while the sick Russians left behind were among their own people. The chief cause of the wastage of Napoleon's army was the rapidity of its movement, and a convincing proof of this is the corresponding decrease of the Russian army.
Kutuzov, as far as was in his power, instead of trying to check the movement of the French as was desired in Petersburg and by the Russian army generals, directed his whole activity here, as he had done at Tarantino and Vyazma, to hastening it on while easing the movement of our army.
What is 27 miles a day, do you think? I can't really
On horse?
clock that. I mean, they're not all on horse.
Right.
I need to do some math later.
What do you mean by, like, what is it?
Like, what would that be like?
Like, how long?
Yeah.
Walking?
Yeah, like how long and how fast?
Yeah. I'm trying to think how long it takes me to walk a mile.
Because I would rather walk fast if it was freezing.
Right. Yeah.
Like the worst thing I think would be to slow march for long hours in the winter. God, almost rather fucking up.
You were...
What is this thing called? Where out?
No, you're like, maybe you do.
I'm vegan, don't.
It's probably like 10 hours. I'm just assuming they're marching all day. I'm picturing Lord of the Rings stuff. I don't know.
That's my basis for
That's
pretty much everything.
apparent. I didn't realize how much it took up in my brain.
But beside this,
Mhm.
since the exhaustion and enormous diminution of the army caused by the rapidity of the advance had become evident, another reason for slackening the pace and delaying presented itself to Kutuzov. The aim of the Russian army was to pursue the French. The road the French would take was unknown, and so the closer our troops trod on their heels, I told you they were cutting their heels, the greater distance they had to cover. Only by following at some distance could one cut across the zigzag path of the French. All the artful maneuvers suggested by our generals meant fresh movements of the army and a lengthening of its marches, whereas the only reasonable aim was to shorten those marches. To that end, Kutuzov's activity was directed during the whole campaign from Moscow to Vilna, not casually or intermittently, but so consistently that he never once deviated from it.
Kutuzov felt and knew, not by reasoning or science, but with the whole of his Russian being, what every Russian soldier felt. That the French were beaten, that the enemy was flying and must be driven out. But at the same time, he, like the soldiers, realized all the hardship of this march, the rapidity of which was unparalleled for such a time of the year.
But to the generals, especially the foreign ones in the Russian army, who wished to distinguish themselves, to astonish somebody, and for some reason to capture a king or a duke, it seemed that now, when any battle must be horrible and senseless, was the very time to fight and conquer somebody. Kutuzov merely shrugged his shoulders when one after another they presented projects of maneuvers to be made with those soldiers, ill-shod, insufficiently clad, and half-starved, who within a month and without fighting a battle had dwindled to half their number, and who at the best, if the flight continued, would have to go a greater distance than they had already traversed before they reached the frontier. Jesus.
This longing to distinguish themselves, to maneuver, to overthrow, and to cut off, showed itself particularly whenever the Russians stumbled on the French army.
So it was at Krasno, where they expected to find one of the 3 French columns and stumbled instead on Napoleon himself with 16,000 men. Despite all Kutuzov's efforts to avoid that ruinous encounter and to preserve his troops, the massacre of the broken mob of French soldiers by worn-out Russians continued at Krasno for 3 days.
Toll wrote a disposition. The first column will march to so and so, etc. And as usual, nothing happened in accord with the disposition. Prince Eugene of Württemberg fired from a hill over the French crowds that were running past and demanded reinforcements, which did not arrive. The French, avoiding the Russians, dispersed and hid themselves in the forest by night, making their way round as best they could, and continued their flight.
Miloradovich, who said he did not want to know anything about the commissariat affairs of his detachment and could never be found when he was wanted, that chevalier sans peur et sans reproche,
Knight without fear and without reproach,
as he styled himself, who was fond of parleys with the French, sent envoys demanding their surrender, wasted time, and did not do what he was ordered to do.
"I'll give you that column, lads," he said, riding up to the troops and pointing out the French to the cavalry.
And the cavalry, with spurs and sabers, urging on horses that could scarcely move, trotted with much effort to the column presented to them, that is to say, to a crowd of Frenchmen stark with cold, frostbitten, and starving. And the column that had been presented to them threw down its arms and surrendered, as it had long been anxious to do.
At Krasno, they took 26,000 prisoners, several hundred cannon, and a stick called a marshal's staff, and disputed as to who had distinguished himself and was pleased with their achievement, though they much regretted not having taken Napoleon, or at least a marshal or a hero of some sort, and reproached one another, and especially Kutuzov, for having failed to do so.
These men, carried away by their passions, were but blind tools of the most melancholy law of necessity, but considered themselves heroes, and imagined that they were accomplishing a most noble and honorable deed. They blamed Kutuzov. I think that's a little unfair. They blamed Kutuzov and said that from the very beginning of the campaign, they had prevented their vanquishing Napoleon, that he thought of nothing but satisfying his passions and would not advance from the linen factories because he was comfortable there, that at Krasno he checked the advance because on learning that Napoleon was there, he had quite lost his head, and that it was probable that he had an understanding with Napoleon and had been bribed by him, and so on and so on.
Not only did his contemporaries, carried away by their passions, talk in this way, but posterity and history have acclaimed Napoleon as grand, while Kutuzov is described by foreigners as a crafty, dissolute, weak old courtier, and by Russians as something indefinite, a sort of puppet useful only because he had a Russian name. But Kutuzov.
Poor Kutuzov.
Actually, I do want to look up Kutuzov. Apparently, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to walk a mile.
Oh,
So,
so I'm taking my calculator out.
you guys are fine.
20 minutes times 27 miles divided by 60. $20 minutes
Yeah, I think.
times 27 miles equals this many minutes divided by 60.
9 hours.
Okay, you know what?
Because just divide 27 by 3. Because 20 is a third of 60. Anyway.
Okay, math lady. I don't even know what's happening. I got 12 though.
You got 12?
Yeah, is that not right what I just did? 27. 27 hours a day.
What? 27 miles a day.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
times 20 minutes equals the number of minutes.
This is the number of minutes. Yeah, okay.
Divided by 60, so I can pass it in. Oh, it's 9. I must have missed time.
Oh,
Because I came up with 12 the last time.
okay.
I can't even fucking use a calculator.
Hey, it's tricky. Those buttons, sometimes they don't want to press. It's hard.
So now you can see the cause of my shame. It's time for me to go.
So 9 hours. It's a nice walk.
It's not great, but
It gets you after a while.
maybe after you did it every day in negative 16 degrees.
Yeah.
They didn't
And,
have
and I don't know
warehouse.
how much food they had.
Yeah, probably not.
That's why, though, I'm like, they're leaving. Just let them go.
You can't do that.
Can't you?
No.
Are the French, like, the French are going to be like, oh, they're stopped chasing us. Well, in that case, I don't think they would do that.
I don't know.
Maybe they would have. Maybe they would have been like, fine, we're going to stay here all winter. I don't know.
Listen, I don't think you can just walk
Michael.
away from.
He's a prince. Of course, he was a prince. Yeah, it's kind of the picture I'm looking at. Did we ever look him up?
Who is out?
Yeah,
No, I think we looked up who played him.
right. This is apparently.
That looks like it could be any white guy.
Right.
Doesn't seem very.
Okay. We're gonna be done this week. I'm not gonna think about that.
I can't even believe it. Can't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just checking out. That's what you do when you're about to die. What? Is someone calling you? That's my version of Andrew, I guess.
Yeah, it's good. It was like he was back.
Yeah.
Okay. Night, guys.